Okay, I'm sorry about the light. Like I said, you're literally the first. This is the first time we presented here, so thank you for coming. So I want to share with you, and I'll zoom in if you cannot see, but mainly, like I said, this is about talking about this global trend and this local dynamics. And the focus is on here is Regenerative Communication Initiative. And this, the main focus is to have this ecosystem design thinking process, which is, you know, connecting the whole community, you know, in the collaboration. And you'll understand why. In the conservation of culture and tradition. And I chose, we chose the term conservation is because we're not here preserving Bali. You know, people always think, oh, we're here trying to protect Bali. Bali's been doing this for 1,000 years, unchanged and thriving. So we want to conserve it because why? We think the world needs it. The conservation is not for us, but the conservation is for the planet. And so I just quickly go through some shameless promotion of where I've been. But WOW is known for our regenerative framework. And our regenerative framework comes with 3 of them. One is the instructional design framework, which you see over here, which is an interdisciplinary framework. New media, English, creative arts, permaculture, motivational art, and the big one that for us is action research or action learning, okay, because of the digital tool. Like I said, even this presentation, as I'm presenting, I can record it. And as I record it, I can even, if I record it and I put an X mark right here, later on when I click that X mark, it will play exactly what I need to be played. So everything is regenerative and everything is shareable with our tool. So we just need to teach them how to use it. The second one is a more personal framework, how to move from the self to what we call mobility. And I apologize for the screen, but I will also share this online so you can share it with your team and or your company or the kingdom as you see fit. And then a sustainable dynamic, which is the one that we presented in 2013, the first time for APEC, for Apple, for eCraft, for UNICEF. This is the one that's known as this sustainable dynamic is technically, I got this model from the Bali, Adat, and Banjar model. How do we work together? What are the learning exchange? How do we share with one another? That's why our Yayasan, I mean, our program's called Wild Bali, but technically our Yayasan is Yayasan Global Banjar International. This recognition has been through all kinds of diverse application, you know, from indigenous culture that we've been working on to transdisciplinary research, and this is where Wild Bali got put on the map, because we got put on the map because we were most of our presentation were at the transdisciplinary level, and you know this from technology. Technology is naturally interdisciplinary, but when you mix technology and culture, then it becomes transdisciplinary, okay? Because it's now become this fluid things that you can connect. We've been recognized for, like I said, all different, from collaborative workshop on social innovation of the arts, awards on, you know, and keynote on sustainable and regenerative development. And our biggest initiative always around sustainable and regenerative development for personal, organizational, and community wellness. Okay, this is our what we are known for. So I'm going to just show you some presentation that I've done in just pre-COVID, because the last 3 years there's a few, but it's not the build-up. My first presentation here for CMEO was on early childhood care learning as the baseline for sustainable education. Like I said, this is important because we have to know this is where all the programming begins. Okay, this is why the 1 month, 3 month, and 6 months should never be lost. That's an important programming. And then migrate up into, you know, most of your father or grandfather never finished 6th grade. So their programming is very limited. That's why they're able to go to a temple and be able to sense the energy. Most of us now, we're in their head. We cannot sense energy. Unless you spell it out for us, it don't mean nothing. And then my second presentation was for the Fourth Industrial Revolution in 2018. And this was presented by Dr. Vuti from CMEO, where I go deep into how everything is all interconnected and from the Internet of Things. And once we start connecting at that level, then we become ubiquitous. Okay? Everything is accessible and everything is scalable. So how do we live in a world like that? So we have to simplify the connection. And this is the beginning where I talk about social emotional learning. That's why social emotional learning is important. So then the next one is I presented at CMEO Innotech on reinventing the future of learning. And here at that same time, I signed with Dr. Effendi, your last Minister of Education, on integrating cell into education, okay, and how cell and new media are very much complementary. And people are like, what? Social emotion and new media? Well, the easiest way I can explain it is that cell, which is your emotional, and new media, which is multiple intelligence. You got your programming, you got your text, you got your visual, you got your audio, you got your music. So all those are multimedia. New media can connect you into your social emotional easily. Then from there, I went to the International Higher Education Research Forum, and I presented on ecosystem design. How is this all going to work together now? And if we were homogeneous community like the Balinese, how does the Internet of Things and technology allow us to work better together? And we're talking about people moving farther away from the puri, right? That big tree don't mean anything if we're not connected to the puri. The big tree is very important because the puri is right next to that big tree, okay? And the puri, like the big tree, provides shades and provide, home for everybody, and then also with the support from Chakshisila representing Ida Dalam, the goal to this research was how do we bring people back to the puri? So we're looking at a model that can implement culture in the most dynamic way. That's the only way they're going to come back, right? Because otherwise they see the culture is what I do, why I go make money. Okay, it doesn't benefit me any. I'll go and do the culture when I have to do it, but I got to go make money. Until we can teach the next generation that, no, your culture is what makes you dynamic. And that dynamism can not only make you go and pay the bill, but could possibly make you the next leader. Okay, make you the next global leader in the area of wellness. And I explained to you how that. And then also here at this International Higher Education Research Forum, Dr. Joe, who is a deputy, he was the principal and chairman of Singapore Polytechnic International. Okay, he was the guy that wrote the master plan for Singapore IT. I don't know if you know of him, but here
to pretend to think faster than the computers and AI and all that. I think what we should do is like what Dr. Hai talks about, which is basically the social emotional learning. In fact, the first time I heard him yesterday, I couldn't really grasp the idea. But today, after listening to him, I find that whatever that he mentioned is very important. And I'll tell you why. When we go and do our skills framework and we talk to the various asset owners, the industry leaders, many a time the top skills that they are looking at are the social emotional skills, rather than the technology skills.
That we did for UNESCO, where it was presented by the ambassador of Vietnam, where I did a case study between Denpasar and Hue, talking about reflection of tradition, how sustainable and regenerative development can be applied, practices can be applied to cultural heritage and cultural concept for an optimum growth and prosperity. And the gist of this presentation is
during the collaboration to the 2019 when we had the Denpasar Festival by the end of the year. Yeah?
That's right.
That's why when I heard your name first. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Bagus.
Yeah. So, I broke it down to how do we take something that through design thinking process from the philosophy, which is a very abstract, mystic, right? Especially most Asian culture anyway, okay, into a heretic approach, personalizing approach. And through that personalizing action approach, break it down to a universal understanding. So that way it becomes an algorithm for anybody. Okay, and I gave a bunch of, application that can be used for that. Okay, so then that way, once we know how to do that, because that's what modernity says. Modernity says you must have science, you must have best practice, you must have, data. But when you're dealing with, a culture such as the Balinese, where the highest culture is passed through sacral and secret, is not you're not allowed to talk about, because that's part of your transformation. If you go and talk about it, you ruin the transformation. And then into something that needs to be described and explained and map out, you cannot do it. So how do we break it down to that? And what are I call it the three-legged stool, which is innovation, tourism, and edutainment. Okay, how these three-legged stool can create new dynamic for the modern cultures of Bali, or of traditional culture, and how to develop that. So then before COVID, I presented for PGRI Provinsi Bali. Okay, this is 1 month after lockdown or COVID hit Bali, and I was frontline presenter for PGRI. And back then I'd been preaching about this for a long time, but when it comes to using the framework, because it's a scalable framework and ubiquitous framework, we didn't know how to adapt it. So we talked about it from a meta view, which is scalability of technology is important. Appropriate technology is key. We talk about inspiring online connection using social emotional learning to offer a more dynamic and collaboration, because that's a big problem. And it's still a big problem, because like I said, a lot of the teachers, they're learning technology themselves. So they now I'm just learning technology, and now you want me to be social, emotional, connected? Well, how we do that? So in the last 2 or 3 years, we went deep into that. We went deeper into the ecosystem of learning, how a teacher can integrate learning with technology and community resource. This program has been applied by UNESCO Digital Ambassador Program and case study by NAMAC. And this is back in 2003 and 2006. Industry 4.0 is new for you guys, but to us Sun Lab guys, it's 25 years behind what we've been doing. So it's not new. So
we'll try to catch up.
Well, I'm hoping better than catch up. And this is why Geek at Sun Lab came to Asia, because I'm hoping that you don't just catch up, that we can leapfrog. You can leapfrog us, and do something that we have never thought about. And I hope this is the beginning of that type of talk. So then the world temporarily closed. If you really look at it, the world didn't really close. What you look at is, this is what's happening, right? Globalization is happening. All right, digitalization is happening. Diversity and identity is changing. Consumerism changed. Right? And we buy stuff online. We had to order over here. We bought food online. Gojek, right? Now we are more aware of intellectual property. Okay, because why? We're moving into this knowledge economy, right? Tourism and festival was the global trend before COVID hit, from our research. And this research was provided by Dr. Putra from Womadewa. He shared Megatrend at one of our sustainable conferences that we did in 2018 in the Philippines. So we invite him to speak. But the main one that we're seeing is this rise of creative industry. And you know this, okay? And Stickom is in the right place. And we cannot evangelate enough about this, how important that technology needs to be integrated into the creative autonomy of Bali, And I think I think they're doing it. I think if we can give them a more intentional way to do it, or to exemplify it, I think they will, okay? So from here, from this global megatrend, then you start looking at a macro view, right? And then if you look at the micro view, which is the local dynamic, which is the traditional, okay? Now, you can call it whatever you want in your culture, but most of Asian culture, in Southeast Asian culture, this is what we have. We have tight social cohesion, we have strong ideology and belief, we're more place-based economic activity, we're a homogenous community, and remember, we inherit our knowledge through our lineage, our ancestors, and rituals, and then also traditional governance. Now, traditional governance in most Asia, and I'm being Vietnamese, most Asia, it's a very loose term. We pretend like we are, but technically we follow modern rules and modern governance. But Bali don't. Bali is one of the few with your Banjar system allow you to still keep this very traditional governance. And I don't know if we can ever duplicate another Bali. That's going to be very difficult. I think it's in the water you drink here in Bali or something, or too much incense breathing in. I don't know what it is. I'm willing to accept anything, But and so if you look at the micro and the macro view, and you got this wheel spinning, well, this wheel that's spinning is eating us up. Why? Because on one level they're hitting us with new media, right? They have the best content. We're just still learning from them. We're getting better. Like there's some new movies out that are showing that Asia's like, okay. Okay, the 3 R's, that's a really good movie to showcase that type of technology and storytelling. But the other one is this globalization of English. Between English and new media, that's what they're chewing in. That's how they manage, is through the language and through the media. And so they're very good at it. So if we can control this mechanism, then Chuck Otari said it best. It's the balancing mechanism of the macro and the micro. And so in our research, we looked at the way we teach it is to build character. We'll show you some of the model that we use to teach English. And then we use the social emotional learning through culture, not soft skills. Okay, modern culture don't have culture, so they need soft skill. And I will show you my research on that. And then we have to look at sustainable and regenerative dynamics. And the best way to say sustainable and regenerative dynamics for people to understand is easy to do and simple to share. Don't make it complicated. It's easy to do and simple to share. And then new media, don't look at it just as the tool, but look at it as the cognitive style. Then it becomes multiple intelligence. Howard Gardner research. Okay? So if you go in here, this is what we broke it down to. If you look at the gears, and the red gear is the English, and the black gear in the center of these 3 gears is the culture, and the green gear in the middle is the new media. Okay? So these are for some of our research. What does English do? Well, English gives you the international, it gives you the opportunity, it gives you the better understanding of a modern system. Okay, which allow you, more economic, more power, more global access. It's also a gateway to experiences and lifestyle. Now, a lot of people say, well, wait, our language don't give you our experience and lifestyle? We have experience. Yes, we do, we have it, but this is something new. This is, and that gateway to that, it's always new experience, right? I mean, look at technology is the backbone of modern lifestyle. Version of phone and version of app change all the time. Newness, that's one thing great about modern world is next week, next month, you'll have something new. Yeah. You buy a thing, next week you have it. So you have this gateway that English is engaged with culture, but it's not married to culture. Like our language in Vietnam and the Balinese, your language is married to your culture. Okay, but English is not. English is like, maybe they are engaged, but they're not married. At any time, they can let go of that culture. They don't need it. This research from Crawford Lang breaks this down. Also, English hide the real culture. Okay? It's above the hidden culture. And the graphic that I put together is like this. Language is the iceberg. Culture is the ice below the water. And you think, oh, this is a small iceberg. And so it's not a big deal. But it's not true. That iceberg can be deep and heavy. Okay? And English is one of these deep and heavy things. You think it's not. Like, oh, English, we sit there and say, oh, you know, they're like babies. They're like teenagers compared to like Vietnam and Balinese culture, okay? Or China. We got thousands and thousands of years of culture. No. Their culture is not wide, but it's deep. It's deep. Why? Because I don't need culture. If we sit here and talk about culture and the culture is money, and if there's money dangling, we will all go for it. We will all go for it. If there's money, let's do it. That's culture. And it's deep, and it's sharp, and you know, like I said, it's pointed. And new media for us in this integration or this triangulation, it's like a submarine. We can go up like a ship above water, and then we can go down. And with new media, what it does is that if you look into some of the application that we applied it for, we didn't apply because nowadays, you know, most kid knows multimedia. You know, they can use, you know, TikTok, Instagram. They can somewhat make some animation. And it's making, and every year it's becoming easier to do even AR, you know, to do augmented reality or virtual reality on your handphone. So, you know, when I used to teach new media, and you'll see from one of my cases, it used to be from a desktop. It was work to learn an application. Now you can do it on your phone. So cognitive profile is changing. When you use new media, you're changing your cognitive understanding. You develop memory ability using new media. Because now you're triangulating. I'm not learning just words, but I'm remembering it with the picture or a sound. So memory of a situation is a lot easier. If you remember a word, if you're good at logical, you can remember it. But if I include it with a sound bite or with a visual or an animation, you know, don't forget. It also developed memory ability. It had diverse learning style. So, you know, nowadays, especially for the Balinese, this diverse learning style is important because you know what? You guys are not literal. Asia is not literal. Our language is metaphoric. Our language is poetry. And then you go into this language that's like the English, which is, if I tell you something, grammatically, verbally, it's exactly. That's why their law is very precise. When I write you a contract, you're bound by that contract because those words lock you into a condition. It moves into multiple methodology and same objective, which means I can teach you the same thing, but using many different methodology. Same objective. Stimulating learning exchange, multi-level learning, and please stop me as I go through this. And all these are research data that we have used for our case study. Multi-dimension connection, speed, emotion, spatial, deeper connection. Also, multimedia allow the teacher and student to have higher relatedness. That's why you come to our class and our children don't just, they love us. When we come there, they love us. Like today we're going to have breakfast right next there. They all come out and it's like, peace, yo. Like, you know, because I like to think that I'm popular and I'm a nice guy. But no, when you connect with someone at the multi-level and through social emotional, we're not just teaching them. We're somewhat someone they trust. Someone that, you know, that because we're connecting them. Yeah, and at one time this was the same way through your ceremony. When you were not so cognitively locked in, and you went to this beautiful temple with a big tree, and you're sitting there with incense, and the energy is just like this, and you can really feel it. This is like holiday. That's why even some Balinese, I say, have you ever been to Denpasar? And he said, up here in Kurta. No. You never been to Denpasar? No. Don't you want to go? He go, why? I'm like, what do you mean, why? Don't you want to know what's out there? Why? He's fulfilled. You know, he's an old guy. I'm fulfilled in my village because everything that I'm connected to is here. Everything I ever want is here. So these are things that we learn. And then also new media help motivate speaking is from what we learn. And I did find through Dorgnham research, and I cited him, that the problem with English and all language is this. I force you to learn something, and you learn it. But if you have no application for it, it's all a memory game. And actually, it could create a negative effect on why you're forcing. And I tell this story all the time.